Hi everybody. Well, I figured not very many people know about an R5 Turbo, especially the internals. You see them on, on rally videos and stuff like that, and people driving them and all stuff, but nobody really is out there showing you how to pull one apart. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to show you how this thing comes apart. Why not? I got to pull the transmission anyway. And if I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the motor, the aftermarket injection system. I have it all. I have all the stuff there. The ECU and all the sensors and all that stuff. But I'll probably do it in my shop. It's just going to be so much simpler. And I'm having it on a lift and all that stuff. But other than that, main thing is just getting the transmission out. And I'm going to show you how easy these things are to take apart. They are. They're real simple. It's like any Group E car. And if and plus I had to I had to take a break from the Sport Quattro. Sorry, I had to. Just something different. I just didn't want to keep sucking dust. But yeah, let me get my impact gun and we'll just start, pulling this thing apart, and I'll show you what it is. It's pretty cool. Push a prop rod, and this is what I'm putting in. This right here is a Quaife limited slip differential. Brand spanking new. Isn't that cool, huh? And I gotta thank Jim for selling it to me. There is the R5 Turbo motor in all its masterpiece. One thing that is really, really nice on these cars is this. You can pull the pin. Actually, let me just undo it first. Pull the pin. Move the glass all the way out, and now you can work on the motor. Check this out. This is a factory piece. This is what they came from the factory. This is a standard header. Actually, it's a 4-2-1 header. Okay, 2 equals 4. It goes into 2 into 1. And the high horsepower R5 turbos had a 4-to-1. All 4 tubes merge one, and they're all equal length. And the big thing is, Corky Bell did a ton of work on his dyno with the R5 turbo motor and found out equal length headers work. That's what they do, because the pulses hit the turbo individually and there's no cancellation of them out. And that's kind of what the GT40 was the same way. These people that do all the log manifolds, they're great for if you have packaging concerns, and they're really reliable. But if you want performance in a small displacement, old style motor, I just go with what they did and the experts back in the day. So let me continue on. Let's start pulling. I'm going to pull the bumper off and pull this whole panel out, and we'll get this stuff all squared, get this all opened out. Then we can start pulling the drive shafts and undoing the bolts on the bell housing and all that stuff, and pull the turbocharger off also. there we have it. We have the gearbox out. And now I can bring it down to the shop. I can put it on the bench and we can start taking this thing apart. Here's the R5 Turbo. Pretty much it's all there. This is a twin disc plate clutch. I'm going to pull the clutch plate anyway just to see, make sure everything's okay. That's pretty much it, you know. And then put it right back on. Other than that, there's really nothing else going on, you know. All right, well, we'll just, we'll cut over to movie magic to down in the shop. All right, see you in a bit. All right, we're down here in the shop and got this down. I guess we're just gonna start pulling it off. I mean, I have to dig up my manual for the R5 Turbo for the transmission. I think there's 3 pages in it, which most German cars have like 150. There's really not much to go on. The only thing they have is the tension to pull the diff. But let's first, the first thing we're gonna do, seeing how I'm kind of doing this blind anyway, let's pull this front cover up. We'll tap it off because the whole thing has to come apart in order to reseal it. And I'll show you what I'll use at the end when I put it on. But it's, you know, all it is a lot of bolts, you know. And pretty much as I looked around, you need a 17 millimeter and a 13 millimeter and a wrench. That's pretty much it to pull everything apart. All right, well, let's get this thing, let's get this front cover pulled off. We'll get this, when we get the cover pulled off, then we will get a good look at the differential and see what we got. First thing we have to do in order to do, we got to pull the lever right here off. So pretty much just, this is an attempt on how to do this. Because they use a special jig that goes right here. Well, that doesn't want to come off. Great. Well, here's an open differential. This is a thing that back in the day, everybody was complaining about that it won't fit the ATB or the Quaife diff. So hopefully that'll work. But, well, we got to split the back and we got to take the case apart so we can get the differential. Yeehaw! All right, let me pull the back case apart. It's a lot like Cosworth. There we go. Looks really good. No chips on the teeth. Everything looks nice and sharp. And we have the differential right here. So this is what we got to pull out. Isn't that easy? I'm going to pull these bearings off. And then we got to transfer them over to the Quaife. Well, the bearing is out. It's, I mean, the bearing itself is good, but the cage, I rattled it a little bit. And this is the reason why, you know, the Harbor Freight pullers, if you try and do this, it says it's for up to 3-inch bearing, and this is not a 3-inch bearing. It's far under that. This thing is not cut well enough, and this thing doesn't have enough slide in there, so what it does, as you can see the marks, it hits the marks on the differential. That's the reason why I had to spin it around. This thing would not go up to connect inside here. That was a problem. The main cage of the bearing holding the ball bearings in pushed this down, and it would not go up, would not go up. And that's why you see these marks right here. Let me grab my... You see this, where these marks are right here? This is where that was connecting, and it still needed that much more to go. Well, it would have worked if it was a better, you know, setup. I mean, if this was a lot thinner and I milled it down, but hindsight's 2020, I just ordered the bearing anyway. And I'll put this all back, and well, you gotta love eBay. This bearing right here is pretty much the exact same bearing as this. They're both made by S&R. And when I typed in the numbers, I typed in 30, what's the number here? 30209-C for this one. But this is an S&R 309-209 with no C on it. I'm sitting there looking around. See, this thing comes up as a Timken bearing. You can actually go on JAGs and any type of differential bearing, and they have this in the same number with Timken. And I kept doing a lot of digging. And what it seems like, S&R built this bearing, which is, and the only difference was the width. The width on the 309C, was it 309? 209C was 20.70 millimeters, which I could have got the bearing from England for 30 bucks, you know, and had it shipped over. But the only problem is I'm going to have to wait weeks to get it. The 09 has a 20.75 millimeters in width, uncompressed. I assume it's compressed width. And I'm sitting there going, okay, that's not bad. But when you look at the Timken bearing, it's 20.95 millimeters compressed. And I assume that's what it is. I'm looking around going, all right, well, the thing is, I bought this new old stock, you know, and this is as close as I could get in America. So it came in 3 days. So I'm pretty awesome about that. All the other dimensions are correct, you know, for the same bearing. And the reason why I'm not really concerned too much about it is that the bearing that needs to be replaced is the side where you put the preload adjustment on it, which, you know, it's compressant of the bearing. So I need to pull that race out of there. What I have to do is I have to remove the screw-in cover, pull that out, pop the race out, inset it in, and then I'll reset everything when I get the differential in. So without that problem, you know, if it was an internal one, like on this side right here, which is fixed in place, I would have bought the one from England. I would have waited a couple of weeks to get it here. Doesn't, you know, that's what it would have been. I would not have risked, even though it's 0.05 millimeters, I've run into problem with gearboxes before when it's that close and that problematic. No, I am going to use the exact bearing if there's no adjustment. Seeing how there's an adjustment on the inside, I'm just going to do that. I got to pull that cover off right now, and well, let's just pull that cover off so we can pop that race out, pop the other one in, and that way we will assemble the differential with the crown wheel, which I put in the vise, and then put everything back together again. You know, clean up a lot of it and then put it back together. So let's move this thing over. The thing that, you know, I was going to pull the gear set out, but it really doesn't want to go, which I think is fine by me. Here is where this is a screw-on thing. So you got to remove this bolt right here, which this tab actually locks everything in place after you get the preload. And let's go around here. I'll get a little bit closer up on the camera so I'll show you how I'm going to pull it out. See, this is all the locking tab is. I'm going to use to pull it out. Initially, what I'm going to use is just this. This just goes in here and unscrew it. What is this? This is just a mount from a Audi or some sort. I don't know what it is. I saw it in the scrap pile and said, hey, you know what? That looks pretty close. But I got to make a tool to go around the stub out axle shaft. There it is. There's the race. There's a new one right there. Pretty much exact. And I don't want to use the old race. I want to use the new race. And I use an aluminum punch just so nothing gets nicked. Go real easy. And don't inset it all the way, because you have to remember you want this to screw onto this to push it in to give you the correct feed. So I just put this in just to see where it is. Here's the crown wheel. This is the original bearing that's on there, which is still really good. And this is the fixed position bearing. Here's the crown wheel. I have two pieces of wood holding it together. They say just put it in the vise, and they show, even Quaife shows that they're just using a vise and they're clamping in. It doesn't say use soft jaws. There's no way I'm going to put this crown wheel, any chance of risking, screwing it up. So I use wood, because the wood will not destroy the metal. That's a big thing. So when you put the ARB diff on, it just slides right in, like this. And then you just line everything up, like that. Now, what I kind of tend to do is I put all the bolts in to make sure this thing has not set a certain way, and you'll see why here in just a second. Sometimes on certain fixtures like flywheels and so forth, you will have to have the flywheel to exactly fit the crankshaft, which means there'll be two bolts that are like a little bit closer together than each other. You'll find that on a lot of German cars, at least on the Audis especially. But what it is that I always put the bolts in, because when I took these out, these did not have any Loctite on them. Guess what? I'm using Loctite. I don't care, because I don't want this thing to come apart. I'm not using red Loctite, which I should, because you know what? I don't have any. And I'm just going to use blue Loctite. Just to dab it on there and put them in there, and let's torque them up. Oh, also I try and clean off as much of the oil as I can off the bolts, so it allows the Loctite to grip. The problem is this wood just doesn't have enough gripping power. There is our hillbilly guide to making a crown wheel not even remotely hurt the jaws or the teeth of the crown wheel by putting wood in here, strapping it down with this tie down, and that's it. So, and when we loosen it up, yeah, it's easy to come off, you know. You would only watch this channel because it's a bunch of hillbilly shit. Well, we got the bearing on now. Next thing is we got to put the speedometer drive double gear on, which is this right here. We got to make sure it's tight. Now, before I put the bearing in, what I use is this. It's Lucas transmission and engine oil stabilizer. The reason why I use it is because it's super thick and it's like an assembly paste almost. That way, during the initial startup or turning of this bearing, you won't have a dry situation, you know. You shouldn't have a dry situation anyway. But this stuff is actually, I've used it plenty of times on a lot of different cars, and it actually works pretty fucking slick. You know? Yeah, it's goopy alright. Yeah. And you can see it clings to everything. I want to make sure any type of surface, I'm going to dump it in it also, but I want this to be on here. I don't want this to strip. Now, back in the day, also, this will be a little offshoot. I used to remember looking at the groups, you know, for the R5 Turbo group, and it almost looks like 50% of the people said the speedometer drive will not work on a Quaife differential, and the other 50% said it will. Well, guess what? It goes on. We're going to find out whether or not it works or not is another thing, but let's let me flip that back over, put this on it, and then I can start cleaning up the cases so we can reassemble the two main cases with, well, I'll show you what I'm going to use. Now, before I start cleaning all the holes and cleaning up all the surface areas for the, you know, for the material using to bond this together, I'll show you in just a second, the first thing is to pull the magnet. This is the magnet that hits everything. Actually, I've seen a lot worse. There's not much on there. Just normal wear. You have to remember it's almost 50,000 miles on this thing, so it's just have to clean that off right here, and that way after I clean that off I can reinstall it and we can start cleaning up every single thing. If we see any dust whatsoever, you've got to clean it out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So let me clean this up, and I'll go over there and we'll start cleaning up all the material that's on, you know, the old material that's on the case split, so we can actually put the differential and put everything back in. And you got to make sure your mating surface is absolutely spotless. I'm trying to get every single ounce of the previous gasket material that they used. It wasn't Hylamar, but it was something. I'm not sure what it was. Hylamar I've used when I did a Lotus gearbox. That's what turned me on to the next product. I'll show you what I'm going to be doing, using as a gasket sealant, because I never really liked Hylamar, you know. See, there's a residue right there. You're trying to get that all off so you can allow the new gasket material to bond to the actual aluminum, not the old gasket material. And what am I using? A Scotch-Brite, and I'm using acetone. And I'm going pretty light because you don't want to take any metal, make any deviate or divots inside of it. That's kind of the whole deal. to get it as clean as you can possibly get it. Now there's also one other thing that was on this car, was there was a bunch of seals, and we have one right here. I don't know why they have them, because they have seals for the external parts of the shafts anyway. I mean, they're still good seals. The two are exactly the same, they go on either side. So I have no idea why. For some reason they have them up there. Doesn't really matter, because I'm putting them back in. Yeah, see what happens. We now have both case hasps pretty much cleaned up. There's some light discoloration here. I didn't dare dig down any further. There's a point of no return, and I did not want to risk ruining the mating surface. That's a big thing. What am I going to use to put them together? I'm not going to use Hylamar or anything like that. I'm going to use a thing called Yamabond 4. Here, let me grab it. This is what it is. And I've used this on other gearboxes, and it works phenomenal. You know, I don't know why, but you have to remember, if you take a look at like Harley Davidson's back in the day, and Yamaha's back in the day, Yamaha's didn't leak, Harley Davidson's did. You look at European cars, European Audis especially, they leak, you know, and American cars like my Cummins leaks. And if you get a Japanese car like the Subaru, it doesn't leak. It's just like, you know what? I'm going to go with a Japanese product, you know, to do this. And if it gives me a little bit better ability for it to, you know, without leaking, that's it. So let me put this all in, and we will put these case halves together. I just do a really light layer on the inside of this one. Use it like a primer coat, just in case I miss anything over on the other side. This guarantees me holding it together. Go. You know, that's pretty nerve-wracking. Start putting all the bolts in. Alright, let's put the back plate on. That way we can get that all squared away, then we'll measure the diff and set the diff up. Okay, we're now ready to put on the rear cover. The rear cover had a gasket. And if you take a look at it, it's just a paper gasket, but they use shellac on it to seal it. I don't have that shellac, so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use some more of the Yamabond. Also, when you do this, you have to have the cover completely clean, and do you see this right here? Oh, that shit that's all right there. This is a detent for the, there it is. It's a spring and a ball bearing put in with this screw right here, and it acts as a detent, you know, for the shifting mechanism. So what you want to do is you want to take that thing out first, and I clean this all up with acetone, clean that all up with acetone. I am going to reuse the gasket, and the reason why is for clearances. I have no idea if this thing has to have a certain set of clearances or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Yamabond all around here, get that shellac off of there, and then I am going to put it on here, put the gasket on, put everything together. That should seal. So let's get this thing together now. Well, let's get ready to do the differential. You can see the differential's all moving around like that. Let me just tap in. Now I gotta go get my gauge, wrap something around this, and see how it works. All right, now we're set up to do the test out the differential. What we got here, just a standard meter, just an electronic scale, power it up. What I have is, hold on, let me let this light into action. It's in pounds, so when you pull it, it's pounds. Now, we sit here and we have the manual, and it says 3 decanewton meters is what it is for pre-stress, which is 22 foot-pounds. And that's what I did. And it says new bearings here, and it says reuse bearings, and it says without play. So what we're doing is we're setting this side. The other side is already preset. So what this right here, I got this in a tool auction, and I have no idea what it's for, but I adjusted everything, and it actually fits right in there, so I can adjust the tension like this. So what I gotta do, see with this is like, still 8, so let's get some more tension on this. Okay, 10.11. A little ways to go. 15. Well, that's 20 foot-pounds, and I think I'm going to leave it right there at that. I'm getting nervous pushing this thing in. Ugh. There we go. Now let's put the rest of this thing on here. Oh, that moves really nice. Well, let's just wrap this up. Well, looks like we're done. Well, there's your deep dive, in my deep dive into an R5 Turbo gearbox. First time I ever split one apart. Kind of intimidating with all the bolts, but other than that, I've done a bunch of MT75 Cosworth 4x4 gearboxes, and they're much more complicated on the inside, but you know, just don't have as many bolting it all together. Other than that, what do we do? Well, hopefully we resealed the gearbox, and we put a ARB diff in it. You know, a limited slip should help a lot. What didn't I do? Well, I couldn't save a bearing with a bearing separator that I got from Harbor Freight. Whatever. I didn't replace the seals on the CV shafts because I'll be, pulling the CV shafts in and out, and every time you do that, there's a chance of damaging the seal. So when I get all my modifications done, everything done, that's when I'm going to replace the seals, because you can just sit in here and pop them right out. It's not hard, And the other stuff looked pretty decent. It's all pretty basic. Besides breaking the bearing and forgetting to put the magnet back in the gearbox, which means I'm going to have the plug for the bottom of this is going to be a magnetic plug from now on, which just replaces it. Other than that, we have no other problems. Just have to go basically bring it back up and put it in the car. I'm not going to show that because it's just a reverse operation of what I did. And the only reason why I did that is just to show you that, if you really wanted to build one, you could just cut out like a Volkswagen Rabbit, or cut out or an Audi back or an Audi front end and dump it into like a Rabbit or something like that, or a Golf. Why not? It does just line everything up. I'm doing with the Sport Quattro pretty much, But other than that, it's all pretty basic. I didn't clean it because it won't be clean till the very end, and I didn't want to, bring the thing out and lose any adjustments on. I wanted to disturb as least amount of stuff as possible. So. Other than that, what else did I do? Oh, the differential. I got it to 19, 20 foot-pounds. It's supposed to be 22 foot-pounds. It says here on the fish pole, but it's as most as I could get with adjusting that over here. This is part of the MR221 manual. What I did is took it out and copied it, and I just put I just typed in everything into Google Translator. Pretty much, all the screws, 8mm diameter, 22 foot-pounds, 10mm, 40 foot-pounds, which is standard, And if you look at like, the crown wheel was 99.5 foot-pounds, and that it's just, what it is. I mean, I just use Loctite on some of it, and that's pretty much it. But it's not intimidating just when you put your mind to it. Just say, I'm going to do it. Why not? So other than that, thanks very much for showing up. I hope I basically took out some of the mystique of the R5 Turbo, because that's what most people just show you at revving and doing stupid things and whatever, all the rally guys like Jean Rignotti and and Satrio and stuff like that. Those guys made those things scream. But other than well, that's it. Maybe next time the EFI. Don't know yet. I gotta throw this thing back in and see if I blow it up. Or I think it should be fine, Very worst, I have to pull the gearbox, bring it out, and retighten it up, But that's neither here nor there. Thank you very much for showing up. I appreciate it, and have a great day. Bye now.